just in life. To crush your enemies, see them driven before you, and to hear the lamentation of their women.
All right. Welcome in. It's Friday night. Friday night already. Hope everybody had a great Christmas. This is the Friday night Radio Baloney Live. I'm your host, Richie Baloney. And yes, I hope everybody's had a nice Christmas. I know I had a very pleasant one. Pretty chill. And yeah, presents and lots of food. Feeling really unhealthy. All right, so who we got? We got Turtles, we got Jesse, we got Rosie in the chat already. Good to see you guys. Let's see, Jesse makes a good point here. Says, may the new year bring no more true China. No more true China. That's right. No more Justin Trudeau. Well, that would be nice. Well, that is going to happen in the new year. That is guaranteed to happen. But just when exactly? Probably like March, I think. Rosie says, hey there, Merry Christmas. I will be in and out, she says. We have company tonight. Well, enjoy your company. Enjoy your company. Don't worry about us. All right, so what are we going to talk about tonight? Let's see, there's actually lots built up, but here's the thing, is that I can't stay up too late because I've got to travel tomorrow. So I'm going to be gone for like a week. So how much you guys will see from me over the week, I don't know how much. Probably not that much. I'll try and do live streams, but I don't know. So definitely I doubt very much there'll be a live stream on Tuesday or on Friday, which are the normal days. Probably Sunday, though, I'll be back live. But we'll see what happens. I might jump on for an hour or two here or there. We'll have to see what happens. But in any case, what's on the menu? What are we looking at tonight? All right, so we're going to go through a bunch of stuff. There's one thing I want to get into a little bit, and it's... Oh, before we get into that, hold on. So, some of you guys, Jesse, Rosie, you guys are awesome. You send in stuff through my X account for me to check out during the stream. Can I ask you a favor? Just send stuff from X, because if you stuff from like Snapchat, or which I don't even have, or like Facebook, like now I've got to start opening up all kinds of new tabs and stuff, and I've got so many open already. I got like 20 open. So it's way easier for me just to bookmark it on X and just show it from there. So just send stuff from X, because everything that's on those places you can find on X as well. But I appreciate you guys sending stuff. I really like it. I've got some of your stuff tonight, but just stuff on X, because it just makes my life a lot easier. So I appreciate that. Thank you guys. Yeah. So anyway, one thing I've noticed about this whole, since October 7th, the year previous, is that this kind of hysteria over Zionism that we're seeing, and there's so much of it out there. And I've noticed it's all the same language, right? You could just replace, Zionist or white, and that makes the purple-haired, Marxist gremlin just as happy. They don't care, right? Just seems interchangeable. All seems like the same thing. And it is the same thing. That's the thing, right? It is all the same thing. It comes from the same place. This is all results. This is all, comes from post-World War II onward Soviet propaganda. We've all seen Yuri Bezmenov, right? The demoralization. It's all just a part of that. Israel, geopolitically important, went with the U.S., so, of course, Soviet Union is going to be anti-Zionist. Therefore, a tsunami of propaganda flooding into, Western academia. It's all the same stuff. If it seems like they're using the same language for it, that's because they are. That's because it all comes from the same place. We'll take a bit of a deep dive into Soviet propaganda. And we're going to take a look at a lot of stuff. We've got some stuff from Grok, but we've got pamphlets here, old pamphlets, Soviet pamphlets, disseminated to Western audiences. It's all the same stuff. Basically, for the modern left, Here's some stuff from the CIA talking about it. We've got a ton of stuff talking about that. If it feels like it's all the same thing, like whiteness, right? Whiteness, the evil force that permeates the universe, white supremacy, Zion. If it feels like it's all the same thing, and those words are just interchangeable in leftist rhetoric, that's because they are. That's because it all comes from the same thing. It's all of the demoralizing propaganda. It all comes from the same source. The academia was awash in all the same stuff. And there's multifaceted uses that the Soviets had for it, not only for scapegoating within the Soviet Union, but geopolitics. There's tons of stuff, demoralization of the West, tons of stuff. Let's see. Jesse says the problem is the left can't differentiate between Zionism and anti-Semitism. Feels like we are back in the 1930s. The way they use it, the word Zionism, is exactly the same way that they use whiteness. It's all the same shit. That's why I recoil from it when I see it. I'm like, this is exactly the same thing that they're using against me personally. You could just switch the words out, right? It doesn't matter. You can switch the identities out. Doesn't matter. It's all the same oppressed, oppressor, zero-sum game, fanatical Marxist ideology. And by the way, the Soviet propaganda included lots of straight-up anti-Semitism, by the way. Yes, did they use Protocol of the Elders of Zion? Yes, they did. Yes, they did push that. So it's all the same shit. That's why the anti-Zionism and anti-Semitism just all feels like the same thing that we see coming out of the left now, because it is. Let's see. All right. Rosie says, you got it, sending X only. Thank you. I really appreciate it. Just makes things way easier for me. All right. So anyway, we're going to go through all of that. We're going to take a deep dive into that. We're going to talk about Canada. Conservatives will force a non-confidence vote in January. I think Trudeau is just going to, I think he'll survive anything they try and do until he either steps down or until late February, March, maybe. We'll have to see. Let's see. We got some stuff on Trudeau here because, of course, he's a hypocrite in every way possible. We'll talk about Joe Biden here, who just, it's really just amazing. This guy was such a hero of the media. It really is astonishing that they managed to just keep supporting that guy with a straight face. Representative Byron Donald says Joe Biden is so senile that he had no idea what he was signing when he granted 37 clemencies to horrible people. Yeah, he's been granting clemencies to absolutely horrible people that you just shake your head and go, why would you do that? How can the Biden family make money out of that? Let's see. There's a crazy plan. Here's the Hill. Congress has the power to block Trump from taking office, but lawmakers must act now. Feels kind of insurrectionist to me. I don't know. We'll take a look at that. It's all just crazy, delusional, nutso stuff. We've got some Pierre Poilievre here talking about, woke culture in the Canadian military. Spoiler alert, he's not for it. Then we got the last tab, the live stream tab, and we've got lots of just crazy stuff here. I think something from Rosie here. We've got a bunch of crazy stuff, a bunch of just mixed up, jumbled stuff that we will go through. We got Crazy Joy Reid in there. We got some Joe Rogan. I don't know if we'll get through all. This is interesting. Claire Danes talking about the intelligence community. She was in the show Homeland, and I guess that she would be around, I guess, to study for the role, would be around like CIA agents. And they told her some stuff that Stephen Colbert was not very interested in sharing on the air. And he cuts her off at the end of this interview very quickly. So you'll have to stick around to find out what happened there. So Milton Friedman here, who shuts down this stupid 60s or 70s, early 70s Marxist retard. That's always handy. This is funny. I don't know what the hell's going on here. It's kind of freaky, actually. Maybe we won't watch that too long. Let's see. So we got lots of crazy stuff. And of course, we have the puppy palate cleansers for when things get too seriously. Of course, we've got the cooking shows because cooking is an important skill. Of course, we've got just random stuff that just makes people happy. And fence content. We've got some excellent fence content here because everybody loves that. Oh, also we have, because I have to keep doing this, I'm hoping for not too much longer, but Grok versus Trudeau. I've made a promise to every Friday get Grok to do a poem about Justin Trudeau. Grok is the X, formerly Twitter AI. It has to. I must have done 100 of these by now. It's driving me nuts. I can't wait till Justin Trudeau is no longer in office so I can stop doing them. But I said I would keep doing it while he's still in office every Friday. So there's 3 things that must happen. Justin Trudeau in the poem must do blackface. He must get a vaginoplasty operation, and he must be loaded into a giant cannon and launched into the sun. We've got one here. I think it's pretty funny. I think it's one of the best ones, actually. So there we are. So I'll put on some noodle cooking class, and we'll take a quick look at the chat before we get started. All right. Let's see. Let's see. Turtle says, Christmas log with a bird buried in a seal. Let's fucking go. A few people enjoyed my rant, my Kiviak rant, the most disgusting, grossest Christmas dinner tradition in the world. Greenland's disgusting Christmas dinner tradition. What is it? It's a small bird wrapped in sealskin, buried in the ground for 3 months, and then dug up and eaten once decomposed. Absolutely disgusting. Absolutely disgusting. We got Kirby in. How you doing? Yeah, a few people commented that they liked my rant. I was actually quite proud of the rant. Quite proud of the rant. Because I really went off on that, actually. It's just, I don't even understand the point of it. What's even the point in having Christmas dinner if that's what you have to eat? I mean, who even thought of that? I'd say what we'll do, we'll take this small bird, wrap it in sealskin, because that's delicious, bury it in a hole for 3 months, wait till it decomposes, and then we'll eat it for Christmas. Yum. How could that be bad? How could that be the most disgusting thing that anybody's ever thought of eating before? Anyway, I went on quite a rant about it. So watch my Christmas video this year. That was my Christmas video this year. Let's see, as well as some other gross things. The pooing log, where I can't remember where that was. Was that like Slovakia or something? Or was that Spain? Or was that Catalonia? I think it was Catalonia. Let's see. Polish Church Kirby says, I hit the like and so should you. What great advice. Yeah, exactly. All right. All right. So I guess that's it. I guess we should get started. You know, one other question I wanted to ask. Do you guys care if the chat is on the live stream screen, like in real time? Like, does that matter to you guys at all? Because I was thinking about maybe putting something else up that might help advertise the channel up in that corner. So I don't know. Do you guys care if that's it? Because you guys can see it in the chat window, but does it matter to you if it's actually on the screen as we're live streaming? Tell me what you think, because I'm toying with just taking that off. All right. Kirby says it's too small to even read anyways. Turtle says, give it a go, trial and error. Okay. Well, you know what? I'll leave it on for this one because it's going anyway. And I don't know. I'll probably crash the whole thing if I try and take it off. Yeah, it sounds like you guys don't really care. So I might take it out. Let's see. All right. Let's see. We got Launchpad here. No, any kind of advertising, you can do that on the screenshot. On the screen. It does not apparently say does not matter. And then I have no idea why that was repeated so many times. I don't know. There's weird bugs, but thank you for your input, Launchpad. All right. So I think I'll probably try it without that. All right. So before we get into the heavy story, the big one that's going to take a while, I think maybe we'll just take a look at some of this stuff first. We'll keep it light. We just got through Christmas, right? I think Rosie sent me this one. Beluga whale saves an iPhone from the sea in Norway. Well, that's kind of interesting, isn't it? Why would it do that? Let's take a look. Now, is it trained to do that? Is it trained? Is it actually in the sea, or is it in like a SeaWorld thing? I don't know. I don't know. Anyway, it's kind of cool. It's nicer if it's just in the sea. Maybe it's saying if you get, maybe it's in the sea and it saw them drop the phone, and then it thought, if I take the phone to them, maybe they'll take me to SeaWorld because I hate living in the wild. Because as you guys know, my belief is that all animals hate living in the wild. Okay. Let's see. John's memes. I wonder what my wife got me. Merry Christmas morning, everyone. This is from Christmas. Yeah. Yeah. Either sex robot or blow up sex thing. Sex balloon. I guess that's a hint. Let's see. Elon. She was Skeksis in Dark Crystal. The resemblance is striking, isn't it? It's quite striking. She's the one who is very, very passionate about female crash test dummies and how crucial the funding is for it. So yeah. All right. So let's just get into it, people. Here we go. So we're going to talk about progressive anti-Zionism and the poisonous legacy of Cold War hatred, the language of Soviet propaganda. So first off, let's start here. So Soviet anti-Zionism. So, and this is Wikipedia. This is leftist, right? This is not like a right-wing thing. This is leftist, right? There's absolutely a left-wing bias on Wikipedia. What do they say? Soviet anti-Zionism. And by the way, because there's a left-wing bias, I mean, they're going to avoid doing anything that would put the Soviets in a bad light if they can get away with it. Soviet anti-Zionism is an anti-Zionist and pro-Arab doctrine promulgated. Let me start over. Soviet anti-Zionism is an anti-Zionist and pro-Arab doctrine promulgated in the Soviet Union during the Cold War. While the Soviet Union initially pursued a pro-Zionist policy after World War II due to its perception that the Jewish state would be socialist and pro-Soviet, its outlook on the Arab-Israeli conflict changed as Israel began to develop a close relationship with the United States and aligned itself with the Western Bloc. So immediately you see a geopolitical reason for anti-Zionist, anti-Israel propaganda. All right, and so this kind of throws a bit of a wrench in the works that there's a giant Jewish conspiracy, like Marxist Jewish conspiracy, because here you have the only country they have rejected communism. They went capitalist. They went, liberal democracy, which I think is kind of an important point. All right. Let's move on to here. The Soviet Union indeed engaged in an anti-Semitic propaganda campaign that targeted the United States, among other regions, with the aim of influencing perceptions, including those of academics, against Israel. Yeah, They really went for the academics for everything, for every, destabilizing, demoralizing idea, for every idea weapon, idea pathogen to use in their propaganda war and their active measures war, their ideological war. Of course, the best place to go is the academics, academia, because they're just going to pump it out. It just becomes this self-renewing thing. Right? They just recruit new, younger people, and then they go in and they just eventually you have what you have now, which is, like 450 psychology professors that are, Marxist compared to one conservative. Soviet propaganda. The Soviet Union used various forms of media, including books, newspapers, and radio broadcasts, to disseminate anti-Israel and anti-Semitic propaganda. They framed Zionism as a form of racism. Tell me if any of this is sounding familiar. Imperialism and colonialism, often drawing parallels between Israel and South Africa's apartheid regime. This was done to appeal not only to the Arab world, but to sway opinion in the West, including among academics. So what do they say again? They say it's a form of racism, imperialism, and colonialism. It's all the same shit. They just use the same stuff on everything they don't like. Right? We've seen the pattern, have we not? All right, let's move on to here. The language of Soviet propaganda. This is an article from Quillette. Okay, the claim that Israel is committing a genocide against Palestinians is among the longest running lies told about Israel. Genocide, Israeli style. Zionist engineered genocide. The final solution of the Palestinian question. These may look like snippets from some recent campus proclamation. Of course they do, but they are not. They appeared in a Soviet pamphlet titled Zionists Count on Terror, published in 1984. What an apt year for it to be published, by Novosti, a Soviet foreign propaganda arm masquerading as a news agency. This pocket-sized brochure was meant to promote the Soviet view of Israel and Zionism to English language audiences. So let's see. Let's see. Zionism counts on terror. So there is the pamphlet. It's a real pamphlet, right? And I think I have one more thing here. Hold on. What's this? Novosti was a Soviet foreign propaganda agency that produced pamphlets and other materials to promote the Soviet Union's views and policies. Let's see. The pamphlet used the words genocide, terror, racist over 300 times. That's from Zionist Count on Terror. English-speaking readers around the world were meant to understand that Zionists were genocidal and racist settler colonialists. Does any of this sound familiar? Any of this sound familiar? Zionists, English speakers around the world were meant to understand that Zionists were genocidal and racist settler colonialists who deployed Nazi methods in the service of global imperialism while suppressing the anti-colonial national liberation struggle of Palestinian people. Does any of this sound familiar to anyone? It's all the same shit that the far left uses on everything. It's all the same. It's the exact same language. Like, there's a reason the far left uses the same language to describe Israel, and often seeming actually to just be talking about Jews in general, as they use to describe every Western country and European people. Genocidal, racist, settler, colonialist. Right? This is because the language all comes from the same place. Soviet active measures propaganda. Yuri Bezmenov told us all about this stuff. Let's see. Isn't this 40-year-old Soviet propaganda pamphlet speaking the language of today's progressives? It is. It's exactly the same shit. This is the zombie propaganda from the Soviet Union, right? They planted the seed and then it just has grown on its own. It just took over. It's an idea pathogen, right? Leftism, wokeism, this is all just the same stuff, right? Progressivism, wokeism, it's a mind virus. It propagates itself. They planted the seed. Now it's continuing on. It's a zombie. It's a zombie propaganda that just persists. Or to be more precise, today's progressives are speaking the language of Soviet propaganda. Again, Yuri Bezmenov told us all about this stuff, right? He warned us all about this stuff. It just persists. All right. Zombie anti-Zionism from Isabella Tabarovsky. This is from Tablet magazine. Those who try to explain the contemporary left's anti-Israel derangement by pointing to the latest academic fashions, such as critical race theory and intersectionality, or to specific news events of the day, often miss the point that the precise language used by the anti-Israel left today to condemn the Jewish state has been a conventional part of left-wing discourse for decades, and that it originated in the USSR. So you've got critical race theory and that's all just built on the foundation that Soviet propaganda built, right? That's all just been erected on the foundations of the original propaganda, of the original terrible ideas. During the late 60s and early 1970s, wrote Stephen Norwood, the American far left repeatedly denounced Israel as a criminal regime resembling Nazi Germany, and enthusiastically endorsed the Arab guerrilla movement's campaign to eradicate the Jewish state. Similar trends were on view in the United Kingdom. By the 1970s, it was generally accepted across the British far left that Zionism was a racist ideology, because, of course, everything is racist, right? And that Israel was comparable to apartheid South Africa. Well, Dave Richin, Anti-Semitism on the Campus, Past and Present. The extraordinary fidelity with which the progressives reproduce the ancient tropes and warped logic of Soviet anti-Zionist propaganda, complete with specific fictions and terms of abuse, raise questions. How is it that such a multitude of groups across the globe, from all manner of communists and Trotskyists to non-aligned political figures, non-communist New Left, Pan-Africans, and Cuban revolutionaries, adopted this language so completely and simultaneously? The answer is that they followed Moscow, which targeted them all with a colossal anti-Zionist campaign, pushing out masses of printed matter, communicating these ideas in multilingual radio broadcasts, and using media and diplomatic channels to influence opinions within countries. Quote here, the zombie-like repetition of state-sponsored propaganda from a dead empire explains why the anti-imperialist, anti-colonialist prattle of today's college students feels like deja vu. It's all the same shit. It is all the same shit. All right, let's move on. Did the Soviet Union use the protocols of the Elders of Zion as propaganda in Western countries? Yes, the Soviet Union did use the protocols of the Elders of Zion as part of its propaganda efforts, particularly in Western countries during certain periods. Okay, let's move on to the next thing. The protocols of the Elders of Zion, which you see that thrown around, I think, far too often these, well, it's a fiction. It's just pure propaganda, right? And I see that being thrown around these days. The Protocols of the Elders of Zion is a fabricated anti-Semitic text purporting to describe a Jewish plan for global domination. Here's an overview of its origin. So a Jewish plan for global domination. All right, and by the way, it includes like using blood to make matzo balls and stuff, like just so obviously fake, so obviously propaganda, but in any case. Creation. The document was first published in Russia in 1903 by Sergei Nilus, an anti-Semite and mystical writer. However, the text itself was assembled earlier, around the late 1890s, by members of the Russian secret police, the Okhrana. That was the Tsarist secret police. The core of the protocols is plagiarized from two sources: Dialogue in Hell between Machiavelli and Montesquieu by Maurice Joly, a political satire aimed at critiquing Napoleon III's regime. Joly's work discusses political manipulation, but without any anti-Semitic content. 2. A German anti-Semitic pamphlet called Biarritz by Hermann Gausch. I don't know. I'm not German. I don't know how you say that. Writing under the pseudonym Sir John Ratcliffe, which included a chapter titled The Rabbi's Speech, describing a secret meeting of Jews plotting world control. This was published in 1868. Manipulation and publication. The Okhrana, the Tsarist secret police, possibly under the direction of Peter Rakovsky, adopted these texts into the protocols, transforming them into an anti-Semitic conspiracy theory. The text was altered to appear as if it were minutes from a meeting of Jewish leaders plotting world domination. How anybody could believe this, I have no idea, but I don't know. Especially today. I mean, all right, so there we go. So Soviet Union did use this work, the Protocols of the Elders of Zion, as part of its propaganda efforts, particularly in Western countries during certain periods. Here are some key points. It seems the fact that the language that is used is exactly the same as woke language. You could just switch out white for Jew. That's a clue that this stuff is all bullshit, right? That's a clue. Right, when they talk about Zionism, exactly the same way they talk about whiteness or white privilege, right? That's a clue. This is all far left propaganda, right? When you buy into this stuff, you're buying into far left propaganda. You're buying into zombie propaganda, first planted by the Soviets. That's stuff that Yuri Bezmenov told us all about. Let's see. Cold War dynamics. During the Cold War, anti-Semitism was occasionally exploited as part of a broader anti-Western propaganda. The Soviet Union portrayed Israel, which had strong ties to the United States, as an imperialist proxy. This narrative painted Jews and Zionists as part of an international conspiracy against the Soviet state. Geopolitical. Right? Geopolitically important, allied with the United States. It's the Cold War. There's tons of propaganda flying around, trying to undermine each side, trying to undermine the other. And not worrying too much about being ethical about it, right? The Soviet government was generally hostile to any form of national or religious identity that could compete with Soviet identity, right? The collective. Right? Not big on individuality, right? Jewish cultural and religious practices were suppressed, and this suppression could take on anti-Semitic overtones, especially when it intersected with broader campaigns against nationalist elements. They weren't shy about being anti-Christian too. Like after the Bolshevik seizure of power, they just looted every church. Lenin and Trotsky just looted every church, just assassinated priests, right? They just weren't big on religion, period, or any unique group, any discrete identity they weren't big on, right? Let's see. I want to show you something else here. Hold on. So this is from a CIA document. All right, let's go to the top here. This is from 1971. Intelligence memorandum. Soviet reactionaries hating Jews and loving Stalin, 1971. Let's get back down to where we want to be. Okay, so we're going to talk about Czechoslovakia now. What happened in Czechoslovakia in 1968? On August 20, 1968, the Soviet Union led Warsaw Pact troops in an invasion of Czechoslovakia to crack down on reformist trends in Prague. Okay, what follows that? This was written in 1971, this memorandum. The Soviet hand in propagating anti-Semitic themes in Czechoslovakia is also revealed in the December publication by the Slovak Pravda publishing house in Bratislava of Beware Zionism. The book, written by two Soviets, Yuri Ivanov and Yevseyev, who has been described as a paranoid anti-Semite, is a vicious attack on Zionism for anti-Soviet activity and for instigation of the Czechoslovak reforms. The new book is actually a revised version of Ivanov's book bearing the same title that was first published in the USSR in March 1969 and reissued in May 1970 in a press run of 200,000, significantly larger than the 1969 edition. The May edition, like the recent Slovak one, was updated and included a more direct implication of Zionism in the Czechoslovak reforms, as well as in events in Hungary in 1956 and the Polish Spring of 1968. The publication of the book in Czechoslovakia coincides with increasing exhortation in the Soviet Union on the need for vigilance and anti-Zionist propaganda. Okay, so you're starting to get a picture now of the Soviet Union's relationship to all of this, to the word Zionism, right? They were using it. It was important geopolitically. It was important internally because they would use it as a scapegoat for dissent, right? And it was important from a foreign propaganda, from the active measures propaganda aspect as well, the demoralization of the West, because it fits in perfectly into the oppressed oppressor zero-sum game narrative that we see adopted by by progressives, the progressive left, by the woke, everywhere in the West. Right? It fits in perfectly. Oppressed oppressor. Again, you could just take Zionist out and replace it with Christian, and it works just fine for any woke person, for any Marxist professor. They're just as happy with both, right? Because it's all the same shit, and it all comes from the same damn place. Again, Yuri Bezmenov told us about all of this. Soviet propaganda, demoralization. This is what it is. So, if anybody wants to know my feelings on all of this, right, this is it. I've just given you a great explanation in detail. This is what I think. So when I see the lunatics, screaming death to Zionists and death to Canada, and blah, I recognize it's all the same shit and it comes from the same place. That's why I have no time for it. Right? I'm not woke, right? So I don't like it. I don't like woke ideology. I don't accept their oppressed oppressor zero-sum ideology. To me, it just is obviously all the same shit. So I've explained what I believe. And I hope that will satisfy everybody from now on. All right. What do we got going on here? Oh, there's lots of chat going on. I think this stirred up some conversation. All right. Let's see. Jesse says definitely leftist. Turtle says, what happens to the airplane that just went down? I saw something about that, but I didn't actually get too into it, to be honest. So saw there was a plane. I think people survived, right? Izzy, 123. How you doing, Izzy? Good to see you. Oh crap! Have I missed any commie hate? Yeah, you just missed a whole segment of, commie Soviet propaganda, commie hate. Let's see. 1, 2, 3, 4. I declare thumb war. I love thumb war. Jesse says, hi, Izzy. We are anti-commie right now. Certainly are. We got we're in anti-commie mode right now. Let's see. We're 42 minutes in already. Wow, I went on quite a deep dive there. Jesse says that pamphlet looks East Bloc as hell. Yeah, it does, doesn't it? Where was that? There it is. There you go. This is what Yuri Bezmenov was telling us about. Here is English language Soviet propaganda pamphlet from 1984. Perfect year for it to come out. Perfect year. Let's see. Hey, Nevada, how you doing? Good to see you. Says, hi, everyone. I just hit the like button. Yeah, did everybody do that? Everybody should be hitting the like button. That's the best thing to do. Nevada knows. Jesse says that he has double good karma, although there were 3 people watching before he liked. Too old, too slow, can't hack it. Gots to go. That's what you got to say to those people. They didn't get in on time. You got the good karma. You were on top of your game. Antipop, how you doing? Trump's a member of God. All right. I don't even know what the hell that is. I've never heard of that. Let's see. I mean, I just went on a long, deep dive into where all this stuff comes from, that it's Soviet propaganda, like all the other propaganda, right? Like you can just replace the word Jew with the word white, and it works for any progressive, any cult, any woke cultist, any Marxist professor just as well. It's all the same fucking shit. I just went through a half an hour of going through this, showing you. It's propaganda. You've been had. It's all the same shit. How is that not obvious? It's the same as whiteness, the evil force that permeates the universe. You have to be constantly wary of. And white supremacy, the other evil force. It's like the dark side of the force. I don't see how this isn't obvious. All right. Let's see. Turtle says, when's the last time there was a Bloods versus Crips conversation? Or influenza? No cure. I don't know. We need to get back to that. We need to get back to the Bloods versus the Crips. Let's see. Nevada says, stinking commies. Antipop says they want to bring about the final battle of Armageddon. Yeah, that's what Israel wants to do. Clearly, there's a cult. There's a cabal that controls the world that wants to find the red heifer or something and start the Armageddon. Those are obviously the people that control the world. I mean, what could be more obvious? Let's see. Let's see. What do we got going on here? Hatfields and McCoys only went 28. I don't know what that means. I don't know what that means. Let's see. Jesse says people have been fighting over culture and religion for far longer than 10,000 years. Only been recorded for that long. Well, Yeah, I mean, like pre-agrarian life, hunter-gatherer society, it was a brutal life. There's the kind of the myth that like Yuval Harari has kind of put out, people like that, that it was actually there's just this beautiful life of, much easier than today. People are much healthier. That's all bullshit. Let's see, what do we got going on here? Jesse says the Babylonians were just as bad. We'll add so many other ancient people, not so much cover. The Aztecs were pretty bad. They were pretty bad. They were not nice. Aztecs were not nice people at all. Let's see. Ottoman Empire, Nevada says. It could just, you know what? This drives me nuts, this shit. You know what? I'm just going to ignore. I'm going to ignore it. It drives me nuts. I don't understand it. It all just seems obviously ridiculous on its face. We can go through it. We can go through the history of this, of how it got into academia in the first place. It obviously all spreads from academia, right? I just did a big segment on it. I mean, what more do I need to do exactly? Right? Like, it's obviously ridiculous. It's obviously just more woke junk. Like, I'm sorry if if a woke person can say a sentence demonizing me and then just change that out to Jew and it's exactly the same, or can spout out a sentence, a woke sentence demonizing Zionism, and then just switch it out for white, and they're just as happy with it. Okay, that's not something I'm interested in. Okay, anybody spouting that, I'm just not interested in. Oh, here we go. Music says the Bolsheviks were Jews. The Mensheviks were actually the Jewish wing. Actually, the Bolsheviks weren't. Sure, there were some that, like Trotsky, who went from the Mensheviks to the Bolsheviks later. Sure, but who cares? Like, what difference does that fucking make? I don't understand this. Like, I'm not playing the spot the Jew game. I'm not playing that. I'm not playing 6 Degrees of Zionism. It's fucking stupid. And why didn't here's the thing, if they were if the Bolsheviks were all Jews, why wasn't the Soviet Union just run by Jewish people? It wasn't. Why were Jewish people still oppressed in the Soviet Union? Why is that? Why were they spreading anti-Semitic and anti-Zionist propaganda for decades? That propaganda is still living on in zombie form in the West today and being spouted by professors, Marxist professors, and purple-haired gremlins. Like, none of this actually makes any fucking sense. Music says, my God doesn't require animal sacrifice. Have you seen the Old Testament? Jesse says, I can't call an entire race evil because of some conspiracies. Lord, we would all be evil. Exactly. I'm not into the identitarianism. All right. Uh, I think the problem is ideology. Like, I think I've been pretty clear about that over the years I've been running this channel. It's ideology. Antibob says, I'm just putting the pieces together. Can you put the pieces together for me then? Because it's exactly the same thing. Put the pieces together for me for systemic racism and whiteness and white supremacy. It's the exact same thing. Just put those pieces together for me. Why wouldn't you believe in that? Why wouldn't you be super against those things? It's all the same shit. You can just switch the words out, right? You can just switch the identities out. It's all exactly the same. And any leftist would be perfectly happy with doing that. All right, I'm going to move on. In fact, I'm getting extremely cross, actually. I'm getting extremely pissed off. So I'm going to take a break. Actually, first thing we're going to do is we're going to turn off the YouTube part, because this has probably already gotten me banned off YouTube, by the way, just this last hour. But I'm going to turn off the YouTube part of it, and then we will continue on Rumble. So anybody watching on YouTube, I value you. You're extremely important to me. It's just there's all kinds of censorship problems and stuff, so I can't do the whole stream on YouTube. So we got to move on. But hopefully I'll see you. I don't know. I'm going away for a week, so I don't know when I'll see you next. Probably like Sunday in like 8 days, 9 days or something. Anyway, see you later. Thanks.